It's 2003 and I received a National Science Foundation scholarship for being a woman studying engineering. I thought it was funny and odd. How do I represent diversity? Oh, the naivety of a 19-year-old. If you, like me, were raised to believe gender inequality was a thing from the 1900s, you had a rude awakening when you entered the workforce. I certainly did when I started my career in Silicon Valley in 2005. So, how can we make sense of navigating a career in technology and innovation where gender still impacts opportunity? That's why my guest this week is Marion Siboni. She is the founder and CEO of La Creme de la STEM, a private network for early stage female founders in STEM, offering a holistic support system that includes exclusive insights from exited entrepreneurs and connections to vetted investors. I cannot wait for this conversation. But first, welcome to this week's episode of Make Sense, a video podcast that simplifies complex issues at the intersection of tech and people. There are many. So whether you're totally hyped on AI and ready for the robot takeover, or you want to crawl into a cave after deleting all of your social media accounts, I'm here with my guests to help make sense of what's going on so you can design yourself into the future. My name is Lindsay, the Lady Engineer. I am a pragmatic futurist and human-first technologist, serial entrepreneur, and innovation consultant. If you're new here, subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. So let's make sense of the future of women in entrepreneurship. Marion, how are you?
Hi, I'm really glad to be here today. Thanks for having me.
I hope my intro did you justice and properly queued up the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it.
All right. So we start each episode with crystal ball. What does the future hold? I'm going to call out predictions for this year, and you're going to tell me whether they're realistic or insane. So for each prediction, Marion, I want you to say, yes, I want that to happen, or yes, that is happening, or like, no, please, no, or like not happening as fast as you think it is. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, new one. Unicorns need a new playbook to survive. So, global equity dollars and deals hit the lowest levels in 6+ years at the end of 2023. There were 309 publicly disclosed startup deaths. Those startups that shut down in 2023 raised a whopping $4.1 billion in equity from 2019 to 2022. So, unicorns need a new playbook to survive. I know you've worked for a unicorn. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with that prediction. I think that the time where startup was just focusing on the next way of fundraising and just we're only focusing on that rather than on the business and are trying to be profitable and to get customers, I think it's over. I think there's still like a lot of startup funders and co-founders that think that way, but I believe investors are really more diligent in the way they evaluate startup and the way they invest.
One of the predictions in 2023 was that investors would be looking for the real workhorses. And I think that's a cute way of saying companies that actually have revenue streams and are not just simply collecting data and hoping to sell it later.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like there was like a huge trend around raising as much fund as possible without understanding that it means giving up equity and also giving up control of your company and also giving up on your vision somehow.
Yeah.
So that's good. It's a good refresher for startup funders.
Any idea where that 4.1 billion goes when that many startups close?
That's a good question. I wish I knew.
My guess is they go to all the salaries of the people that were working with those startups and all of the services and stuff that they paid for. So it is money that went into the economy. So,
yeah,
we'll give it to that.
Jobs somehow. That's good.
It is creating jobs in a way. Okay, next one. Many generative AI companies will die. So after a huge hype year in 2023, the next stage of the hype cycle in 2024 is what Gartner calls the trough of disillusionment. Competition, platform risk, low returns for enterprise customers will dry out funding. Is this what happened in 2024? What do you think?
I mean, for sure, there is definitely a huge buzz around AI. And I think what is also really new is that people that don't work in the tech industry also know about it. Like my parents are not in AI or tech at all, but they know about ChatGPT and they know about AI impacting jobs, and they actually really worry for, what the future might hold in terms of Gen AI. I think that what's going to happen is that just like the previous prediction, investors are going to focus on real Gen AI and not just like algorithm, because I think there is a difference between algorithms that have been around for a really long time and pure generative AI that is actually able to generate content and learn from the users. So I think that's where the split might happen.
Absolutely. As a due diligence reviewer for some investors, I review startups for funding, and I will tell you over the past 5 years, I can't tell you how many startups, say they're using AI, but like aren't really, or just have maybe one hook into a Amazon AI,
Mm.
bot. So you're saying the ones that are going to succeed are the ones that are really a pure AI play
Yes, that's
and
what I
are making money.
think. Yes, as well.
All right, last one at the intersection of AI and e-commerce. So expect to see more AI sales agents built into e-commerce and social channels. So all of the chat bots, whether it's for customer support or for help shopping. Are you seeing more of that?
I have been seeing a few more. I haven't been really impressed by any of those. Usually it's like after one or two interaction with the chatbot, it's like talk to an agent. Please put me in touch with a human being, because clearly the AI does not understand. I think it's still early in terms of adoption and in terms of like learning on how to use AI. So it's not just about using ChatGPT or using AI. It's like, how do you use it and how do you leverage all the power that Gen AI has to make it useful for the users? And I think that for this specific aspect, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But
One thing I did see that was experimental in this CB Insights report about this is that in some other countries they're using AI chatbots to actually negotiate, like haggle prices with the business, in that, in other cultures, haggling and price negotiation is much more
yeah,
common. And so they're using that to haggle and negotiate prices online, which I think that's kind of cool. If like you can make an offer to the website, I would buy this if it was $3 cheaper.
yeah,
They
yeah. I
give
mean,
you
that's an interesting use case
yeah.
for sure.
Interestingly enough, last week there was a headline. Most consumers hate the idea of AI generated customer service. 53% say they would move to a competitor if a company was going to use AI for customer service. Do you think that's true, or just opinion, but not what they're actually doing?
I think it's about the value. I had like some very frustrating experience with customer services that were 100% handled by humans, and I think that the reason why I was frustrated is because those humans did not have the right amount of sorry of information to answer my question, or they didn't have the proper access to knowledge, or the right access in the software to unlock me somehow. So I think the struggle can be the same for Gen AI. If you don't give Gen AI or the chatbot the right amount of information that is needed to properly handle the customer question and the customer claim, it's going to be a frustrating experience. So it's all about the user. And
100%. I agree with you. There needs to be an exit so that you can talk to a real agent. Like that is 100%. And I had a guest on in 2023 that said, AI hasn't reached its full potential until humans don't need to really be experts at prompt engineering, right? Like AI will fulfill its potential when you don't have to over explain yourself to get the bot to come along with you. So we're definitely not there yet at all.
Yeah, definitely. I think there is a wave of adoption and learning how to use the full potential of the tools
Mhm.
is definitely a big one for the survival of AI along the way.
Right. I also like the point, I like the fact that you can see that working with a human agent, that it's not that they are personally bad or unhelpful, but the reason they can't fulfill your request is because the software they're using doesn't give them the information to fulfill your request. The software they're using doesn't empower them to take action in your best interest. And I want to emphasize that because that is something I think all listeners should think about when they're calling into customer support. If you get frustrated, first ask the agent, do you even have the ability to do the thing that I am asking you to do?
Yeah, that's a good one. And training as well is a good one.
I think it shows compassion that you can see that. It also shows that you can see, the backstage of the system design. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in sales, so I know what it's like to have like a proper customer service, and hopefully that's something I was doing with my customers and partners.
Yeah, 100%. So our second segment on this episode of Make Sense. Who needs a safety net? In this segment, I ask my guests to share the risks, failures, learning lessons of entrepreneurship and creating their own path into the future. So, Marion, you are the founder of La Creme de la STEM. Tell me about your motivation for this community.
Yeah, absolutely. I always had a passion to help women working in the STEM industry. When I first started my career as a sales in a large tech industry, in a large tech companies, I was really naive. I didn't understand that, what sexism was, and I didn't understand that it could be a thing in a workplace. I didn't understand that only at the time 30% of women were working in the tech world. So that was a huge shock when I started. I thought, equality was something that my grandmother had to worry about. So you can imagine how surprised I was when I got confronted to what I call casual sexism, where you have little remarks on the fact that you're a woman, and that's oh, you call that customer, and he answered, oh well, of course he answered because you're a woman, so this CTO prefers to talk to you rather than talking to me. So I had like a lot of example like that. I don't think we have time to go through the thousands of remarks and experience, unfortunately. So yeah, I've always been passionate about helping women. So that's one pillar. I also work for Techstars, the world's largest pre-seed investor, and I've seen firsthand early stage founders needing help. I think that you need help your entire career, I think, but when you start a company, everything is overwhelming, like the legal structure, building your network, building, like talking to investors, and the list goes on and on. And I've seen a lot of founders that were really looking forward to join an accelerator for getting fundings, but also getting access to a network. And I have a large network that I built when I moved from Paris to New York 2 years ago by organizing in-person events for women in tech. And I gathered in total 4,000 people that came to my event.
Wow.
So I know the power of network. And that also helped me when I started to build my own company, because I was just one text away from any answer. Like, oh, one of my friends is a lawyer. I'm just going to text him, grab a coffee, and then it's going to help me. Oh, it was not that helpful. That's fine. I have another friend. I can put him in touch with this lawyer that helped. This startup raise 15 million. And just like, I have a lot of examples like that. And I think it's so powerful to be able to have the answer, because I save so much time. I save so much money, so much energy.
Yeah. Okay. So La Creme de la STEM comes out early 2025. So you are in the thick of the setup, pre-launch. This is a very exciting and nerve-wracking time because everything is vision. Nothing is yet real, although I know you definitely have people that are involved and you've done a lot to set up. So why don't you tell us about what the setup work has been like and how you've executed on building this vision?
Yes, absolutely. For now, I just see like the exciting part of it. It's really empowering to have freedom to do whatever I want, and I'm pretty clear on my vision. So, as you mentioned, it's going to be an online community for early stage female founders in tech. So, my first step was to find those early stage female founders and talk to them and share with them my vision, conduct a survey, which is something that all startups have to do when you start building a company, is making sure that you're building something that makes sense and not something that you think would be useful. Like, it's really important, coming from a business development, partnership sales background, to talk to your customers. So that's the first thing I've been doing. And then I'm also building all the foundation in terms of the different pillars that are going to be part of the community. So investors, VCs, I already have 70 plus VCs in my network, which is great. I'm really, really glad that all those VCs agree to help female founders. And it's not just women, it's men and women helping those female founders. I'm also working with exited entrepreneurs that can share the insights about what worked, what did not work, lesson learned, and the ins and outs, and everything you need to know when you build a company.
So much.
And I'm also working with corporate partners that can provide exclusive discount and support the community overall.
So this is what interests me. I think if I'm thinking about getting people to say yes to a commitment they will make in the future, it's hard to put the ask out there, but it's relatively easy compared to brand sponsors and collaborators, because I think those, they want to see more evidence. So what do you say to that? Did you just sell them on your vision?
Yeah, partially. I think the vision and my background also really helps. When you look at what VCs look for investing in a startup, the number one thing is always the team. So I'm a sole founder. I'm my own team. So it's important for me that I'm able to clearly articulate my vision and also explain them why I'm doing that, and also my track record. So I never built a company before, but I did build a community from scratch when I moved from Paris to New York. I am not, I worked at Techstars. So that was an investor. I was talking to female founders firsthand. So having all those elements, I think, are very important as I have those conversations going on.
Awesome. So before I go into that question, have there been any snafus yet?
Any what? Sorry?
Snafus, like, oops, did that wrong, lost a couple weeks pursuing that thing. That was a bad idea.
Yeah, I think I don't see the learning process that way. I think that whatever I do is like learning. So sure, there are emails I send that might be too early, or yeah, but I don't see it that way. It's also very early. It's been 2 months. And I think what matters is that I'm aligned with my vision, and I'm comfortable having the conversation I'm having, and running all those different elements separately. So no, I don't have any like huge mistake to share right now. But maybe in 6 months, I would be like, oh, actually, I spent too much time doing this. But
why is it important to you? You told us a little bit about women, but why is it important to you to support women, particularly in tech and innovation?
It's important to support women because they only get 2% of VC capital. And it's a number that hasn't changed in decades, which is absolutely crazy. Even during what you described with like the really high investment that were done, these numbers have not evolved. There is also a business advantage I think a lot of companies don't realize. Boston Consulting Group shared a study where they say for every dollar of funding, the revenue generated by funded, woman-funded or co-funded startup is 78 cents, when for men it's only 31 cents.
That's big.
It is big, and it's also like a huge difference between men and women. So I think that diversity is also is always good. Like having different backgrounds, different opinions is what creates innovation. So it's not just about being a moral imperative and the fact that women represent half of humanity. It's also, it just makes sense rationally. And when you are in the business world, you have to talk about very rational items. So I think those numbers are important to keep in mind.
So there are two things that I always kind of have with the 2% of funding goes to women. I really want to know how many are at bat at each stage. So, how many people applied for pre-seed? How many were men? How many women, agender, non-gender included, right? And then how many got funded? Because if only 2% of founders pitching for VC capital are women and 2% of the funding goes to women, that sounds okay. But if 60% of the founders pitching for funding are women and they're only getting 2% of the funding, that's obviously a much bigger problem. So where do you think women, what would your guesstimate be of how many women are even going after VC capital?
That's a good question. I don't have the number in mind, but I think
more than 2%.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's like, I would say like between 30 and 50% would be my guess. I don't think I'm too far, but I think that what happens as well is that women get tired of pitching. So I think that with a few women funded startup, they were tired of trying to get money and they were tired of going after investors. So they decided to go for an alternate route of funding, because there is not just VC funding that exists. You can have loans, you can have grants, you can do crowdfundings, you can have equity through SVB, where you have also your community investing directly into your product if they are accredited investors. And I've seen a few examples like that. So I think because this number is so low, there is also a lot of women that are not even trying, I think.
That's what I have seen too. And 2023 was a hard year for all startup founders. It was particularly hard for many of the female founders that I have worked with. And I saw them experimenting around the gender bias, adding every male advisor they ever had to their team list, enlisting a man on their team to send out the intro emails. Do you have any other examples like that, or have you seen that and it ends up working?
Yeah, I've seen that, which is very unfortunate. I've seen one of my friends was trying to get fundings, and she reached out to a bunch of people. She didn't get any feedback, or she only get something like, well, we're not interested. And then she sent the same email, just her husband sent it. So that was a man, white man as well. And he got much more answers for exactly the same content. I've heard a few stories when women would like masculinize their first name. So for me, I could be Mario instead of Marion, and
or Chris instead of Christine.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that is sad that we still have to hear these kind of stories. It's crazy that in 2024 we're still having these conversations.
Do you think the conversations about investing in women are very surface level, or do you think investors are trying but are very blind to their subconscious bias?
I mean, for sure, they're biased. Like it's human. You invest in people that look like you. So if 85% of men are investors, are men, so they're going to invest in people that are like them. It just makes sense. So it's about bias. I think bias is a huge thing. I think also for men taking their responsibilities. Running a community of female founders. I had like a lot of conversation with very good friends. They were like, "Oh, you should talk to this woman, and this woman." I was like, "What about you? Help me. You're a man. You know me. You're convinced by what I'm doing. What do you do for me? Instead of introducing me to more women, that's going to add more work on their plate." So, and I actually challenged them, and they were like, "You know what? You're right. I didn't even think about that, but let me know how I can help." So I think being, for women, being more pushy with men that are around them, also like challenge them to help and step in and be champions. I think it's very important. I've seen a lot of communities that are for female founders with female VCs, and that's not what I'm building, because I do not believe in that. I think that I think this is great, and I think a lot of women are also more comfortable talking to women, VCs only, and it's great that there is a community for everyone, but I really believe that men have to be involved as well. And even like in reaching out to investors, a few of advice I got, or, "Oh, you should reach out to this fund because they only invest in female founders, and you should invest in those ones because they do like femtech and so on." I was like, "Oh, I'm not interested. They're already convinced." I want to reach out to everyone, and like in my outreach, that's what I do. I just reach to all the VCs that are investing in founders, whoever they are.
I think you pretty much answered my question on including both men and women, and why to include men. I believe and wholeheartedly agree with you that if 85% of investors are men, building a community that only puts female founders in touch with female investors is incredibly narrow and limiting. And at the same time, female investors don't always only invest in female founders. They want to, or femtech. So it's kind of a little belittling too to say, like, be a female founder with female investors in female related products. I mean, we are 50% of the population, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. There are amazing women that are building AI startups or SaaS or fintech. And it's not just for an audience of women. It's just for large companies or small and medium businesses. So
why do you think it's important to also include unsuccessful founders as mentors alongside successful founders?
Yeah. I feel like we only hear the good stories, and I feel like there is, a huge trend of fantasy around, "I'm a founder and I'm grinding and I'm going to work hard for 2 years, take no holidays, take no time off. And in 2 years, I'm just, going to raise fundings and, sell my company and be rich, and that's my only goal." It's not true. 90% of startups fail. That's a reality. So I think that starting a startup to be rich is not a good calculation if you're not passionate about building. So I think it's really important to hear also the failures. And I actually say unsuccessful failures, but it's more about lesson learned, because it's easier to start a new company if you already start one and close it down, because now you know what you need to do different for the next one and the next one and the next one potentially. I think also starting a company can give you like a lot of skills. Myself, I don't have a marketing background, but I'm writing a newsletter. I'm going to do maybe shorts on LinkedIn someday. I'm going to be more regular on social media, and like I'm learning all those skills that are going to be useful for me no matter where this path takes me. Like maybe I'm going to work for 10 years on this company, or maybe I'm going to work for a large corporation that will be glad I know how to handle all of those items. So I think it's important also to take a step back for all startup founders, and being successful is of course the goal, but you can also decide to stop because that was not the right time, or you decide that your priorities are on your family, or you just want to, I don't know, take a trip. Like I think there is like many ways, and I'm a little bit tired of like the only the only seeing one version of the startups.
I've
Success.
always said from startup failure events that it's not a big enough failure if the people that are sharing their stories aren't crying. Uh, Maybe I'm being a little too aggressive, but I've had the same observation as you that we don't
Mhm.
share failure stories enough. So, in that vein, I will quickly share like a 2-minute failure story. One, I was building businesses hacking on the weekends the second I set foot in Silicon Valley in 2005. And nothing over the 4 years while I was there really stuck for very long, enough for me to have revenue and feel like I started a business. And so I started beating myself up as the years went on that I was not fulfilling this desire of mine to be an entrepreneur. I worked with a career coach, and she said something just so simple. She said, Lindsay, if you're really an entrepreneur, you will start multiple businesses in your lifetime. Stop putting so much pressure on the first one being the one that knocks it out of the ballpark. And with that, it was like years of restriction and imposter syndrome and doubt. Just, it was like a cloak, a weighted jacket I just took off. And I ended up starting an e-commerce business right around the beginning of the athleisure uptake. So I was just retail for different brands in athleisure. And after 2 years, I realized e-commerce is all digital marketing. And I knew nothing about digital marketing. The same time I had been an independent consultant doing my tech and design work. And it's like, oh, well, this stuff is paying me. This e-commerce stuff is not paying me. If I'm going to learn digital marketing, I might as well do it for the stuff that pays me. And so I closed that one down. And yeah, there were a ton of emotions around that. And you grow and learn around what you perceive to be failures. And my hope for everyone is that you don't see it as a failure, you see it as a learning lesson.
I love that.
Awesome. So, our final segment on this episode of Make Sense is no scrubs, just solutions. In this segment, we dive into strategies and techniques to elevate innovation and leave mediocre solutions behind. So, Marion, you're originally from France. You came to New York. You've told us this a few times. You built a community of 4,000 people. That's crazy. Now you're building a new community. You're clearly an expert when it comes to building a network. So before we throw in a very emotionally charged word, somehow for people, networking, what does it mean to you?
To me, networking is about creating connections. I know a lot of people define networking as coming to a room with a specific goal and want to achieve that goal before like the end of the networking event. But to me, it's really about meeting new people, understand who they are, understand what we have in common. And it doesn't have to be professional. It doesn't have to be, in my case, are you a founder or are you an investor? It can be like, hey, what's your favorite restaurant in New York? I love food, obviously. It can be when are you taking the next holidays, like what are you doing this summer, like there was just so many ways of creating connections. And I think at the end of the day, people are going to remember the good conversation they had with you rather than your job or the project you work on.
I 100% agree. Networking was reframed to me in 2016, 17-ish as relationship marketing and relationship building. And I can't agree with your definition more. It is about maintaining good relationships with lots of people. And I will give this one rule that people can hold on to. It's a little bit. So the average person can only remember 150 people at a single time. But we've met way more than 150. Marion met 4,000 people just building that last community, right?
Yeah.
The average person forgets about you every 90 days, right? You can't control the ability of your network to send you opportunities. The part you can't control is whether opportunities cross their desk. The part you can control is whether they remember you.
Yeah.
So every 90 days, stay top of mind with the people that are really important to you. All right. So you recently were featured in a Medium article titled Highly Effective Networking. Marion Siboni of La Creme de la Stem on 5 strategies for successfully networking both online and offline. Can you list off those 5 strategies?
Yes, absolutely. The first strategy is to build a network before you need it. I think this approach really helps you to build without any pressure, without, I have to find a new job kind of thing, or have to make friends that fast, So that's really the number one rule, to also make genuine connections, because you don't expect anything specific from the people you're meeting. This way, you're not in a transactional mode. The second one is give before you get. A lot of people give and then they expect to get something. You cannot. It doesn't work that way. I think that you can give a lot of things and you will never know what you would get or if you will get something. But the power of doing that is just so incredible. I have a lot of personal examples with like building my company, because I built this community and I was able to help all those women for more than a year and a half with just like the intention of bringing people together. That brought me a lot of connections and a lot of opportunities. So I'm an investor in a fund, and I got this opportunity because this woman that is starting this fund focusing on community-led entrepreneurs only wanted to have community builders. So because of all the work I've been doing, she reached out to me. So it's not direct, like I don't know her, but she knows my reputation somehow. And that's what is bringing me this incredible opportunity. So give before you get is a really big one. I mean, they're all important, but
So build your network before you need it. Give before you get. What's 3?
The third one is connect on personal matters. So that's what I've been saying. It's just make sure that you talk to this person because of who they are, rather than the company they work for or what they can bring you, and creating those personal connections, and make sure that you find something in common with this person is going to bring more value than just focusing on something purely transactional. That can work. I mean, transactional conversation can work. It's a one-end thing, and once you get something out of it and this person gets something out of it, it's done. But that's not the way you build an effective network and long lasting relationship either.
Do you have any examples of personal matters? I'm thinking even remembering if someone has children or not.
Yeah, it can be a lot of things like where did you grow up, which university did you go to, what is your favorite cuisine, where are you going on holidays, and then it can also be like I'm French and I connect a lot with the Olympic Games. Like I had a lot of people asking me, "How is it in Paris right now? Why are you not in Paris? Like how the French perceiving the Olympic Games and so on." So I think we all have something that we can bring to the table, and it doesn't need to be like I'm an expert in business development because I have 10 years of experience. It can be something as simple as I'm French and I lived in Paris and I can just share my experience without overthinking it.
Okay, so number 3 was connect on personal matters. What's number 4?
Number 4 is always follow up, but keep it short and sweet. I think a lot of people don't do that. The American culture is very friendly, which I appreciate, but like what can be hard is how do you know who is actually going to follow up with you, and how do you know that the conversation you had is actually going to go somewhere else? So one tip I always recommend that is kind of like rule number 1 in networking is like add people on LinkedIn, or on Instagram, or ask what is the best way for them to connect on. I personally love LinkedIn because I think that's just sending messages and also going on the profile of the person, seeing the picture is really helpful. And follow up. So it can be anything like, hey, it was great connecting with you at New York Tech Week. In our case, the way I followed up with you was, hey, it was great connecting with you at New York Tech Week. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I would love to be on your podcast as we talked. And let me know I can help you, and let me know if you need any additional information. So I don't think I sent you a really long email, just like a short note, remember of like how we got connected, why we had a shared interest, maybe something else like, I've been featured in this article, or I'm organizing this event, or I'm going to this conference, or attending as well, because that's in your field of interest. Like, I think all the little things that just show that you know the person and you remember the person are good. And it's okay to take notes during a networking event. I have a good memory, so I don't need to do that, but you can have your phone and just really type the name of the person and be like, this person loved, I don't know, tennis and wants to go to the US Open and have tickets, so maybe I follow up with her on that, so it can be really anything.
Right. Back in the day when we used to have physical business cards, I think maybe 20% of people at networking events now have actual physical business cards. I would write the notes on the cards themselves, and that was pretty easy. And I kind of miss those because you could connect with someone on LinkedIn, accept the connection right in the moment, and then totally forget about them. And then 90 days from now, I'll like someone I connected with on LinkedIn for New York Tech Week. There's no message exchange between the two of us, so I don't remember why I know them, right? And that's an unfortunate part. Okay, so number 4 was always follow up promptly. 5. What's number 5?
Number 5 is be clear on your expectations. I think that I do see a lot of people that come to a networking event with a goal in mind, which is fine, but they're not clear about what they want. For example, I'm a student and I'm looking for a job. It's not enough. I need to know what is your background, what is the job you're looking for, what is the industry you're looking for, and also why are you excited by this type of job. And I think a lot of people always have like, the big picture of what they're looking to achieve, but they don't have like what I call like the sub questions. And like, I think the sub question is really what can help you to build those relationships and get advice. So in my example of like a student looking for a job, a question could be, hey, why did you decide to start your own company? And then they will hear my take on my entrepreneurship journey. And then maybe they will think it's a good idea to be an entrepreneur, or maybe they're like, okay, I know I do not want to do that. So I think being very clear on the expectations is important. We all overwhelmed like by social media, by our friends, our family, that there is a lot going on in our world. So be super clear is very, very essential. I also have people reaching out to me on LinkedIn. They're like, oh, we want to talk to you. I'm like, I don't know why you want to talk to me. And I also have like 30 unread emails, so I don't have time to come back to you, try to understand why you want to talk to me, and so on and so on. So do your homework and be clear on what you want from a conversation.
100%. I am thinking of a lot of hacks that I have. For instance, if you request to connect with me on LinkedIn without a note, I will respond and ask you what your interests are and how I can help you. And if you don't respond to that, I will not accept your connection. It's a little extra work on my side, but it makes sure that LinkedIn is still useful to me so that I know everyone I'm connected to. And if someone is a second connection, I know that our mutual connections are people I can reach out to and ask for help. Do you have any tips as far as like organizing yourself? It sounds like you do a lot of this by memory and habit and naturally, but it's not natural for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something I'm working on right now. I started to use Notion. I think that's a great tool to organize the to-dos and so on. I think, all those hacks on LinkedIn are also very useful. Like, you met this person, or you met this person a second time. That happened to me yesterday. I met this woman. There's a female founder. She came to one of the event I organized half July, and I did not do what I told you to do. So I was like, oh, sorry, I don't remember where we met. But now what I remember is that we met again. So I was like, okay, that was great to connect you last night. Great to see you again from that previous event. So that helped me to keep track. LinkedIn is, great for looking for hashtags or locations. I was in Chicago recently, and I looked up who is in Chicago in my network. And I would reach out to those people and be like, hey, I'm going to Chicago. Do you know anyone? Can you help me? Another tool I like to use is HubSpot. I think HubSpot is really powerful. They have a free version that has a lot of features. You can plug, you have like a plugin that you can put on your Gmail that will record all the activities that you have. And you can like customize that as well and have like tasks to remember to call back those people. And then I think having days of purely deep work and going through all the administrative work and make sure that you followed up effectively and that all the to-dos is not like just building up on and on and on. Like at some point, it's great to do a lot of outreach and a lot of events and a lot of activities, but at some point it's important to follow up. Otherwise, all the work you do is for nothing.
Right. So with HubSpot's CRM, I had the impression that it's very sales focused, like moving your contacts through deal stages. Is that the case? Does it support relationship building?
You can customize some fields. So in my case, I had it like the different type of persona. So am I talking to a potential guest speaker, an investor, a female founder, just someone I met that is great? So you can customize that. I also use Source to remember where I met those people. And also to know how to optimize my time. Like, should I do more conferences? Should I do more networking events? Should I spend more time doing cold outreach on LinkedIn or Twitter? So that's the field that I picked, but you can customize that based on whatever you want. And then, the tool is what you want it to be. So you can have those, sales cycle, if that makes sense for you. That's something I've started to use for large corporation I'm working with. But I don't use it for people for now. But I might in the future. I don't know.
We'll see. I would love to take a moment for listeners to plug the relationship marketing and CRM that I use for relationship building. It's founded by a guy named V Band. He founded a company called Contactually, which he sold to Compass. I was so upset when that happened. I could no longer use Contactually. But then he started a company called Relatable, which lets you capture, prioritize, remember, and nurture your business and personal relationships. So there aren't any deal stages. And each bucket that you put people in, for instance, when it comes to my network, I have sphere of influence. That's like my advisors, the people I want to talk to every 30 days. Then I have extended sphere of influence, and then I have solar system, right? So the sphere of influence, I say I want to talk to them every 30 days, and Relatable will start to turn that contact orange and then red, or yellow and then red, to let you know that it's been too long. So based on the bucket they're in and the time you want, the frequency you want to keep in touch, it will use a color coding system so that you remember to stay top of mind. And I really highly recommend it to anyone that is struggling to organize their contacts. So Marion, I have one last question, because one of the things I've seen from founders over and over again, I challenge them to reach out to 25 people that are first connections on LinkedIn. It's my LinkedIn challenge. I'll link to it in the blog post and the show notes about for this video, for this podcast. But basically says that our networks are a wealth of value and opportunity, and that since we don't remember more than 150 people at a time, if we look at our first connections, which are usually on LinkedIn, which are certainly more than 150, we will find 25 people that have been doing something relevant to whatever we're doing now. and we need to just say hi and reach out. And the rebuttal I get from everyone is, I haven't talked to this person in a long time. Isn't it random that I'm reaching out to them? What do I say?
I think that looking at the social media, not just LinkedIn, but also Instagram, Twitter, maybe Google the name, maybe they have been featured in an article recently or podcast. I think that's the number one thing, and just talk to them about that. Like, oh, congrats on being on this podcast, or congrats on launching your newsletter, or just something like that is usually enough. It can be something also more personal. If you remember that person, it can be like, oh, I just passed this coffee shop where we had a matcha latte together like years ago and thought about you. How are you doing? Just like a nice note that put them in the context of where and when you guys met. And then just something about, I think if you build a relationship that's strong enough, just being like, hey, I would love to reconnect because I love to hear more about what you are doing. I think remember that it's about them and not about you. So just reaching out to someone, be like, hey, I need help. I haven't talked to you in years, but can you help me? I don't think it works. I think it works only if this person owe you a favor somehow, but it's really rare. Or if you like, I don't know, work with them for a very tough project and you guys were successful. I don't know, but I think those finding like the little things that are more like the emotional part rather than on the work part are the best tricks.
I think that totally makes sense. It hits on at least 2 of your 5 strategies. Give before you get. So generally being interested in whatever they are up to and wanting to reconnect. Maybe you'll ask them to do something later, but you want to reconnect first and connect on personal matters, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Any
help or just be of help, like, hey, I've seen that you are starting this company that is helping private equity. My friend works for a private equity company. Do you want an introduction? It can be something like that. Like, what can you bring them that is very relevant for them?
Right. A quick Google search, a quick Instagram or LinkedIn post check-in. You can figure out what's relevant to them. Find someone that you think would be valuable introduction to them. But really, we think we are being leeches or pariahs or whatever ick anyone has with networking. And people are so wanting personal connection these days. Just really happy to hear from you, genuinely. So put your big girl, big boy pants on and do that reach out. Any last words about networking?
I could talk for hours networking and everything I learned. So, I mean, if anyone is interested, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn or read the articles that I've been featured in.
All right, so let's make it make sense. There's still a lot to do when it comes to supporting women in STEM, tech, and innovation. And Marion is working on one such solution. So thank you for listening to Make Sense with me, your host, Lindsay Tabis, and guest, Marion Siboni. We hope you enjoyed our take on navigating a career in tech and innovation where gender still impacts opportunity. Marion, you have a newsletter. You said you liked LinkedIn. Any other places people can find you online?
They can visit my website, La Creme de la. You mentioned the newsletter, lacremedela.substack.com. Pretty easy to find as well. Follow the company on LinkedIn, La Creme de la. Pretty straightforward.
You get the point. Point taken. Yeah. As always, you can check out all the links and resources in the show notes. Final note. If you want to continue to be the smartest person in the room, make sure you're getting notified when each episode hits. So on YouTube, subscribe. And for audio only, follow wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, Marion, for joining me.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.